waves were like nothing I've ever seen before. I couldn't even imagine a boat that size rocking as much as it was.
Things were flying around. It was becoming dangerous to be in your cabin.
I heard the wave hit. It just completely decimated that window.
Within seconds, one of the main engines died.
Started to kind of hit that this is a pretty serious situation, that we might be boarding in these lifeboats in the middle of the ocean.
And I thought to myself, there's no way any of us will make it 10 minutes in that water.
From the Weather Channel, this is Storm Stories with meteorologist Jim Cantori.
Late January 2005, 3 storm systems are stirring up the North Pacific, hundreds of miles off the Alaskan coast. A cruise liner called the MV Explorer is caught in the middle. Savage waves batter the 25,000-ton ship. The passengers, more than 600 college students from across the United States, cling to anything bolted down. They've been promised a trip they will never forget, and that's exactly what they're getting.
I never thought waves could get that big. It just looked like hills of water and wind blowing fiercely and just water spraying everywhere.
Several times I was literally thrown off my feet and thrown across the cabin.
When Mike Green and Adam Cadillas boarded the Explorer in Vancouver, British Columbia, it was supposed to be a floating college, part of a program called Semester at Sea. Mike and Adam are second semester juniors at the University of Iowa. They grew up together in the Chicago suburb of Burr Ridge, Illinois.
Me and Mike get along great. We lived in the same neighborhood and we went to the same grammar school.
Get our work done when we need to get it done, but I like to have a good time otherwise.
Having a good time is a big part of what they want from this program, but so is an education. The ship is scheduled to visit 10 countries in 3 months, giving the students a first-hand look at the real world.
I was excited for the adventure for them, but kind of leery that they're going to be on a ship going around the world. Yeah, that's scary.
The Explorer is on its way to Busan, South Korea. But as soon as the ship enters the open waters, it hits rough seas caused by several low-pressure areas. For Ria San Angelo, it's alarming. The English major from the University of Pittsburgh had wanted to take this trip since she was in high school. But news of Asia's tsunami gave her second thoughts.
Initially, I was worried about, the bad weather overseas, and the tsunami had just happened. And here we get in the ocean, and as soon as we get there, my worst fears seem to be coming true.
You learn very quickly to bolt down your computer, to put all kinds of desk items and office supplies on the floor, because if you don't, they're going to end up there anyway.
Assistant Dean Ken Gaither is helping the students cope. Day after day, 20-foot waves rock the ship, making even the most routine activities challenging.
Just walking down the hallway became, an exercise in balancing.
In the cafeteria, you got everyone holding onto their trays for dear life, because not only is it hard to balance a tray full of food, but it's hard to do it when you have to walk at a 45-degree angle.
You'd come back from dinner and you'd be covered in your drink and your food because everything was just sliding all over the place.
In the classroom, some lessons are learned the hard way.
Kids would be sitting in the desk, and one large wave would hit. All 30 kids and their desks were thrown over.
This was serious because this was to the point where it could have caused injury. So by the next morning, all of the desks were removed from that classroom, and everybody was sitting on the floor for class.
For 7 long days and nights, the students struggle to find their sea legs.
We went through a tremendous amount of meclizine to treat motion sickness. I think we went through what we had planned for the entire voyage.
People on the ship started to become very frustrated. This wasn't what anybody had expected.
We just figured we were in for more of the same. But when it did get worse, it was clear that we were out of our league.
January 26th, 6 p.m. Chief Engineer Neil Carney is on the ship's bridge. The native of Great Britain is used to rough waters. He's been working at sea for 23 years, so this stormy voyage doesn't have Carney too concerned. Then, in the dead of night, 650 miles off the coast of Alaska, the Explorer sails directly into 3 storm systems.
Wind speeds rose up. The wave height I couldn't tell you, but I know we were shipping water over the bows.
On Deck 4, Mike Green and Adam Cadillas are trying to sleep when the weather changes. At first, the boys think it's sort of amusing.
Shelves were opening and closing, and drawers were slamming shut, and it was like a fun house in there.
Beds were flying all over the room, and stuff was moving all around. We just stayed in our cabin and tried to just have fun with it.
One deck down, Ria San Angelo is not having fun.
Now I was just really scared. My roommate, she looked out the window and she just had this expression on her face, like just frozen with terror.
There's good reason to be frightened. At 4 a.m., the assistant dean orders all passengers to put on their life vests. At this point, it's just a precaution, but it's the first step toward abandoning ship. Many of the students huddle in the hallways.
It was becoming dangerous to be in your cabin because things were flying around. Things as heavy as TVs and dressers were just falling all around the room, just shifting, sliding across the floor. Glass tables were breaking.
Mike and Adam stay in their cabin, still trying to have fun. At dawn, when the light reveals the extent of the damage, the boys pull out a video camera to document their adventure.
At this point, our room was completely trashed, furniture all over, TV broken, beds strewn across the room.
The waves were like nothing I've ever seen before. You'd just come all the way down and see the water, and then it would shoot so far up where you'd see the sky, and it's just, I couldn't even imagine a boat that size rocking as much as it was.
6 a.m. Ken Gaither is in the radio room where he maintains regular contact with his colleagues in the United States. Just around the corner on the bridge, the captain is turning the vessel 180 degrees, looking for the safest route out of the turbulent seas. But the combined force of the 3 storms has generated an enormous wave. The 50-foot-high wall of water is barreling toward the Explorer. The mountainous wave slams the ship head-on. It washes completely over the superstructure and shatters the windows on the bridge.
I heard the wave hit, and you could hear the glass break, but more than anything, what you could hear was the water coming in, pouring in.
January 27th, 6:15 a.m. 650 miles off the Alaskan coast, 3 storm systems pummel the cruise ship MV Explorer. The hundreds of students aboard have donned life jackets in case they need to abandon ship. A 50-foot wave has smashed into the vessel. Now, water pours through shattered windows into the bridge. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Neil Carney gets a call from the bridge. The water is flooding the ship's electronic controls.
Within seconds, one of the main engines died. I sent one of the lads aft to initiate emergency steering, and it was a short period after that that the second engine went down. You know, in rough weather like this, you don't want to lose propulsion without steering, and you're at the mercy of the waves.
30 to 40-foot waves pound the crippled vessel, knocking its passengers off their feet. Already a faculty member has a broken rib, and a crewman has dislocated his hip.
Have your attention, please, for those, and please listen carefully, on decks 2, 3, and 4. Please proceed slowly and in as orderly a fashion as possible to deck 5.
At 6:30 a.m., Assistant Dean Ken Gaither takes one more step toward abandoning ship. He orders his students to move to the deck where the lifeboats are stored.
I think it's very clear in my voice that there was real reason for worry when that announcement was made.
Students Mike Green and Adam Cadillas are in their room still videotaping when they hear the announcement. Mike tries to make light of the situation.
Looks like we might die. All right, I gotta get going here.
I guess at this point it probably should have turned serious, but you can maybe tell on the video that we're just kind of laughing.
We tried to be pretty lighthearted and make some jokes out of the situation, but I mean, deep down I think we were both scared.
One deck below, 20-year-old Ria San Angelo struggles to get up the stairs.
I was trying to hold back tears because I was trying to be strong and, just do whatever they told me to do so that we can make it out of the situation safely.
When the students reach Deck 5, the Explorer's crew prepares them to board the lifeboats.
At this point, we're thinking we've seen this movie before. It's just like Titanic, and I think there's just pure adrenaline at that moment.
A very large wave came in and punched out the big center window in the bridge.
For the first time, the captain explains exactly what's happened.
In fact, the wave was higher than the bridge, so we had a lot of water, and it shorted out all our equipment up there.
And that's when it started to kind of hit that this is a pretty serious situation, that we might be boarding these lifeboats in the middle of the ocean.
I thought to myself, there's no way any of us will make it 10 minutes in that water.
Down in the engine room, Neil Carney and his crew work frantically to override the water-damaged controls, which keep shutting down the engines. There's no telling how long it will take.
Getting the engines back online is a priority, the utmost priority.
Carney has put out a distress call to the Coast Guard. An HC-130 rescue plane and 2 cutters are en route. But Carney knows evacuating this many people in high seas is dangerous. His only hope is to restore the ship's power. 7 a.m. On Deck 5, students prepare for the order to abandon ship.
People are holding out to the railings. We're sliding so hard and so fast against each other that we're knocking people over, and we're falling down over in our life jackets, sliding across the floor.
Down below, Carney and his staff try again. This time, one engine roars to life.
To be able to start the engine, we disabled the emergency stop system that was actually trying to shut down the engine all the time.
With one engine, the Explorer may be able to limp out of harm's way. Students are told to find safe areas where they can ride out the storm. Some take refuge in stairwells and hallways, but many stay on Deck 5, afraid to move.
Every time a big wave would hit, you would hear screaming, and you would see the entire part of a group of people on one side of the ship slide across the floor to the other side.
You couldn't control where you were going, who you slid on, who you crushed into the wall. It's just, sorry, I'm about to hit you. I'm sorry.
Actually, a good amount of people who were thinking that maybe we're going to have to get into the lifeboats, maybe we're going to die. A lot of people were assuming the worst and obviously very scared.
It was like a quiet panic going through. Like, people were just kind of lost in their thoughts, and maybe they didn't believe we were really going through this.
The MV Explorer is too badly damaged to reach its original destination of South Korea, and the injured people need immediate treatment. Finding a closer port is imperative.
There was a lot of pressure to be able to get the engines back working.
Carney's team scrambles to get the ship's second engine up. The sooner the captain has full power, the more quickly he can get the ship to safe waters.
If the rolling had continued, there would have been quite a lot more injuries to persons and equipment.
January 27th. The hobbled MV Explorer fights the vicious waters of the North Pacific. Only one of its engines is operating. Finally, after more than 2.5 hours, engineer Neil Carney and his team override the computer system and fire up the second engine.
It's that period of time when everything comes together, the training you've gone through, to be able to get away from the automation and go back to basics.
With the ship running on full power, navigating the treacherous waters is easier. The captain calls off the rescue attempt by the Coast Guard. Still, it takes another 6 hours for the Explorer to reach safer conditions. After 12 hours in their life vests, students are allowed to go back to their cabins.
I just couldn't believe the damage I could see before my eyes.
The library was a disaster area. There was not a single book left on any shelf.
Everybody's room was destroyed. Like a lot of TVs were broke, the beds were all over the place. Furniture in the room was flipped over, a lot of it was broke.
The place we had come to know as home for the last week was destroyed.
People were just very quiet and very sad at how destroyed the boat had become.
To make matters worse, communication lines on the ship are down, and students have been out of contact with their families for more than 14 hours.
Most of them weren't so worried about themselves as much as they were that their parents would be concerned about them.
In Burr Ridge, Illinois, Pat Green doesn't know anything about the dangerous storm her son Mike has gone through until she receives a call from her husband.
My husband called from work and said, turn on the news, Michael's ship just got hit by a wave. And I didn't know what was happening to Mike. So it was very hard to sit here and be so helpless as a parent.
Pat checks the Semester at Sea website for updates on the ship.
I was sitting in my kitchen thinking, what's going on at the moment? Because, that ship could have been, washed over by waves. It could have been safe. I didn't know.
Almost 2 days drag by with no word from their son. Mike's parents are at home when the phone rings.
The phone first rang Friday night. There was nobody on the other end, but I kind of stayed on, hello, hello, and he finally came on. Mom, how you doing? How am I? How are you?
That's when I kind of realized maybe it was more serious than I thought, because they both seemed extremely surprised and happy to be talking to me.
I think I was a lot more afraid than he was. It was great to hear his voice and know he was okay.
January 29th, 6 p.m. The Explorer is 11 days into its voyage. Finally, weather conditions improve. The ship is headed to port, where the injured passengers can receive medical attention and repairs on the vessel can begin. The destination? Honolulu, Hawaii.
If we were going to be stuck anywhere, what better place to be stuck than Hawaii?
The weather got calmer, the seas got calmer, the sun came out.
Before we even arrived, they were lining the decks. They were so happy to see land when they could leave the ship. They streamed out and they were kissing the ground.
Aloha! The students take advantage of their unscheduled semester break. February 1st. Officials with Semester at Sea assess the damage on the MV Explorer. It needs extensive repairs to its navigation system and interior.
It was a really stressful time for everyone. We didn't know if the program was going to continue. We didn't know where we were going.
Most of the students are counting on the program for credit. With the semester well underway, canceling the trip could affect their ability to graduate on time.
The opportunity of a lifetime to go around the world in 100 days, go to 10 different countries. I'd have been devastated if we had to stop the trip.
2 days later, the students get the news. They'll be flying the next leg of their journey.
I can't believe they pulled together what they did, getting us to China and then Hong Kong and to Vietnam.
Its repairs completed, the MV Explorer catches up with the students in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Of its original 10 destinations, Semester at Sea loses only 2 from the itinerary. The horror of the violent storm soon fades as the students move on with their travels.
The remaining 86 days were about the best time of my life.
I'm definitely a changed person. I really would like to travel more now, and I'm looking into different career possibilities because of this trip.
I've seen how people live all across the world, their cultures, their customs, and it just made me become more accepting. I just learned to appreciate other people and other cultures.
How are modern lifeboats safer than their predecessors? The answer when Storm Stories continues. Old lifeboats, like the ones used on the Titanic, were made of wood and steel and left its passengers exposed to the elements. Today's motor-propelled vessels are enclosed and built of lightweight plastics. This design allows them to roll over in heavy seas while passengers are harnessed inside. These self-contained heated units often are stocked with 3 or more days' worth of supplies in case the rescue is delayed. To ensure quick rescues, lifeboats are installed with emergency locator beacons that can pinpoint their locations for search parties. For Storm Stories, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori. Your local forecast is next.